throughout the day, and they're usually highly volatile cases. Something has happened to make this person come to the courthouse. And it could be anything from my wife is on a plane to Russia with my newborn child, stop her, to the roof is leaking.
I've submitted some of those type of cases, you know.
Yeah.
And so what happens when they come in? You have to drop everything you're doing.
I do.
You have to read everything and then immediately grab the judge, get him off, he or she off the bench, and say, "We have an emergency, judge. We have to deal with this."
Well, I have to gauge whether it lives up to the legal standard of emergency. So I sit with the file a few minutes and I look through it and I make some phone calls if necessary, and I try to figure out whether this is something that the judge needs to address right away, whether the parties are waiting downstairs for him, whether it's something he might want to take testimony for, or whether it's something he can probably decide. And again, I make a recommendation on all of those points.
Okay, and
yeah, I mean, order to show causes, a lot of times they don't rise to the level of being emergent, so a lot of times we convert them to motions.
And the standard, I happen to know, immediate and irreparable harm.
Imminent harm, yes.
Right? So it's got to be something real serious and that can't wait, and something that money damage can't cure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Except I imagine if it's a real lot of money that's about to go south, the judge might make an emergent order on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Once in a while.
Yeah.
It's usually not financial. Yeah, it would have to be something very particular.
And do you talk to the people on the phone that submit these orders to show cause?
Yeah, and sometimes the parties are there. Pro se parties file them all the time because they themselves don't know what the standard is. So a lot of times the parties are out there in the hallway and you have to talk to them to get more information from them. We had a lot of order show causes around the holidays. We had to deal with like Christmas parenting time, Thanksgiving parenting time, and stuff like that. So I always think those are emergent. Sometimes a battle with me and the judge trying to convince her otherwise, but.
So you really are the gateway to the judge.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
You know,
That's a nice way to put
the
it.
portal, the gateway to the judge. They have to get past you.
So yeah, the line of defense.
Right, well, and that's a good service that you're doing. Now, how about just dealing with pro ses, people who are representing themselves? That's in a class all its own, right?
It is. Yeah, pro
because
se.
I'm sure a lot of pro ses that are people representing themselves don't have lawyers. They don't know how the legal process works. And somehow or another, they get your phone number, and they call you up, and they say, "What do I do?" Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? Now, what kind of, questions or pro ses do you get asking those? What type of issues, typically?
Sometimes people are just crying and very upset, and they've received an order, or they've received the motion papers from the other party, and they're very traumatized, and they want legal advice. And we're not supposed to give out legal advice. So I give them procedural advice about how they can respond and their options, and I can sometimes refer them to legal services and just help calm them down a bit and help them cope.
Now, are there, when people call, the pro ses call, are there forms that you can give them or direct them somehow to get their case in front of the judge?
I can, if it's appropriate, I could transfer them to the intake clerk, the motions clerk, who actually receives the paperwork. Sometimes I tell them to visit the website. There are forms that they can download on our website. And other times they'll ask me things that I just am not supposed to answer, and I have to strategically convince them that,
Right, that you can't give legal advice.
Exactly.
And nor can the judge.
Right.
The judge gives legal opinions, not legal
Yes.
advice, right?
Yes.
How about dealing with the attorneys? Lena, let me ask you that. You interact with guys like me every day.
Yeah.
What kind of an experience is that for you?
Well, with attorneys, a little bit different because they should know what the rules of court are. But sometimes I do get attorneys still trying to argue their case to me, like if I'm the judge and I'm going to do what they need. But, I mean, it's a lot different because they know how to approach you with regards to this stuff. I usually get them, requesting adjournments and stuff like that. So it's not really, or if it's an order to show cause and I have to call them and say the judge wants a conference with you, it's pretty much, I don't really get them passing.
Well, I guess one of the worst things you could do is, as a lawyer, is call up the judge's law clerk and start screaming at him. right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you won't get very far.
You won't get very far.
I think they know that by now.
Yeah, but I'm sure that happens every once in a while.
It does.
It has.
Sure.
You know?
Rarely, but it has. Let's not name any names.
Yeah, don't name, no, don't name my name.
No, definitely not.
Now, Jane, how have you found dealing with the attorneys?
In general, attorneys are very helpful. They know their role in general, I would say, and they just want to assist in resolving the motion. Sometimes you get assertive attorneys. I will have to find a way to get them back on track and say, you know, your motion is on Friday.
Yeah, right.
You'll have your piece before the judge on Friday. But I found that there's a wide range of quality in the paperwork we receive. There's a wide range of temperament in the phone calls that I deal with.
I bet. Especially in the family division where everything's so emotionally charged. So it's you're like a sounding board.
Yeah.
And maybe
Sure.
a buffer to the judge as well. You know, the attorney can argue with you a little bit and hope that convince you to convince the judge to rule in their favor.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's with family emotions, but sometimes I see like the attorneys get emotional over it. They kind of take their client's persona
Yes.
to
Right.
say, you
Yeah.
know.
And
they're
that's probably not a good thing to do, you know, because
It's not as effective.
no, I think if the attorneys remain professional and on this level as opposed to the emotional, they get a lot further, right?
Yeah.
All right, Lena, your best day and your worst day as a judicial law clerk.
Well, I think probably my best day and my worst day are related together. I don't know if it would be best and worst, but so far it has. We had an order show cause filed, a pro se client who filed an order show cause for parenting time during the holiday, which we were talking about previously. And it was for Thanksgiving, and Christmas was coming up, and the child's mother would just denying the parenting time. It was also the children's birthdays at that time, and he had a whole birthday planned and cake ordered, and the kids never showed. So I was really rooting for this guy. You need to grant this, judge. You need to grant this, and got denied. So it's one of the things I went home over the weekend just thinking about it, you know, because sometimes you can't help but like feel for the person. But later on, going to the best day, he got an attorney, came to court, and they were able to settle it. So he was able to see his kids, and I saw him in court after mediation one day, and he's like, "Hey, here are the pictures of my daughter. I see them every week now."
Nice?
So, it, you know, made me happy to see that
that's-
some things do work out eventually. So,
Well, that's good.
yeah.
Jane, how about you? Best and worst?
I think in general, some of the best days are when we have wedding ceremonies and you
Oh,
actually
yeah.
see parties coming together and not fighting. And also whenever my recommendation works and the judge sides with me and I get to give that order to the person and I see them smile, and it's just a nice reward. My worst days, probably just when I'm interrupted. You feel like there's no control, a sense of control, trying to get things done, and people are just urgently looking for attention, and I just need the stamina to get through the day.
No, I told you this would happen. We have about a minute left of this show. And in the few moments we have left, Jane, I know that you are going on to an appellate clerkship,
Yes.
right? So good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you see that to be like?
I think it's going to be very different. The level of interaction with the general public will be reduced. I
Right.
will be researching and writing for most of
You're
the
going to be
day.
in an ivory tower.
An ivory, somewhat isolated tower, but it's very academic. Again, I'll get to work with a judge and just really immerse myself in many different areas of law. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's great.
Thank you.
But Jane, Lena, thank you so much for being on the show. And it sounds like your clerkships were a real good idea.
Yeah.
You've been watching LawTalkToday.tv. I'm Mark Gruber. If you have any ideas for a show, go to the website, send me an email, and we'd love to have your ideas for future shows. Again, thank you for watching, and good night.